So now that we know how many stitches to cast on for our project, we're going to take one of the circular needles and cast all the stitches onto that. In my case, I'm going to be casting on 40 stitches. So using the long tail cast on, I'll cast on 40 onto the one circular needle. Do try to cast on fairly loosely so that you're not struggling to knit every stitch. The first thing you're going to do after you've got all your stitches cast on is pull them to the other side of the circular needle. So the working yarn is in the middle. There's your working yarn. Then I'm going to transfer half the stitches onto the next circular needle, your second circular needle. So 20 onto this, in my case. Now you'll slide, keeping your stitches in a U so that they're together at the bottom. Your knots are to the inside, loops to the outside, slide completely to the other side of both circular needles. You want your working yarn on the left needle. To show you up close, you can see the needles are arranged so that half of the stitches are on each of the needles, each of the two circulars. It's shaped like a U, connected at the bottom, knots to the inside, loops to the outside. Then what I'm going to do with a small crochet hook is pick up that first stitch and transfer it onto the other needle. Then I'm going to take the stitch under that on the left needle, go over that stitch, and then take it over to the other needle. Now these will be a little loose. Tug on both your working yarn and your tail to get a nice join. And there you are. Joined at the bottom and joined also at the top. So now to knit in the round, we're going to start with ribbing. Ribbing is a knit one, purl one pattern. We will bring up the working yarn, always comes up between the tips of the two needles, and the tail down underneath. We'll pull the back stitches on the back needle onto the cable and just let that whole needle hang out of our way. We're going to knit and purl the front needle with its own other side. So we will knit and purl across. First stitch, it's always good to tug a little bit to make it snug so you don't get ladders at the edges. So we're knitting and purling all the way across to get our ribbing. And after finishing the first one, we'll turn so that we can knit the other needle. The back needle will go out of our way and we'll pull the stitches onto that cable. Once again, the working yarn comes up between our needles. And we'll prepare the other side to knit. All we're doing is knitting 1/2 of the stitches with one needle, 1/2 of the stitches with the other needle. Again, we start with the knit. We're going to pull that first stitch snug, and then we're going to knit purl. Knit, purl, knit, purl. But normally, like I said, that back needle would just be completely out of your way, just hanging there. And you would be just paying attention to the stitches on this needle. So we've now knit one round. We knitted that, and now we've started back and knitted that. We're back at the tail, which means that's the beginning of a round. We'll turn again, bring our needle that was inactive to the front, pull our stitches that we just knit onto the cable, and again we'll knit the stitches in the front here. Prepare and get our stitches on. To knit with the same needle. All right, so the stitches in the front on the needle, the stitches in the back on the cable. Working yarn comes up in between, and we'll do this one close up. Knit and pull that first stitch a little bit tight. We're going to knit, purl, knit, purl. Okay. Turn to the other side. Our back needle is allowed to hang with the stitches just back on the cable, and our front needle becomes our working needle. Knit, pull that first little snug, purl. All right, and we've reached the end of the round. We can tell because we're at the tail. Ready to start a new round. Are we getting the hang of it yet? Okay, Simply Notable Knitters, let's practice and be ready for the next time.